Van Halen is the debut studio album by American rock band Van Halen. Released on February 10, 1978, the album peaked at number 19 on the Billboard Hot 100. The album became widely recognized as the band's popularity grew, selling more than 10 million copies in the United States by 1999 and achieving RIAA Diamond status. Pretzel Logic is the third studio album by the American rock band Steely Dan, released on February 20, 1974, by ABC Records. It was written by principal band members Walter Becker and Donald Fagen. They recorded the album at the Village Recorder in West Los Angeles with producer Gary Katz and prominent Los Angeles-based studio musicians. Tonight's the Night is the sixth studio album by Canadian musician Neil Young, released in 1975 on Reprise Records, catalog Ms. 2221. It was recorded in 1973, its release delayed for 2 years. It peaked at number 25 on the Billboard 200. London Calling is the third studio album by English punk rock band The Clash. It was released in the United Kingdom on December 14, 1979 by CBS Records, and in the United States in January 1980 by Epic Records. Back in Black is the seventh studio album by Australian rock band AC/DC. Produced by Robert John Mutt Lange, the album was released on July 25, 1980 by Albert Productions and Atlantic Records. By the late 1970s, AC/DC began to achieve significant popularity outside their native Australia, with high-energy live performances and a string of successful albums. The Modern Lovers is the first album recorded by the Boston-based band The Modern Lovers. It was released on Berserkly Records in 1976, although the original 9 tracks had been recorded in 1972. 6 of the original tracks were produced by John Cale. Nevermind is the second studio album by the American rock band Nirvana, released on September 24, 1991. Produced by Butch Vig, Nevermind was the group's first release on DGC Records. Frontman Kurt Cobain sought to make music outside the restrictive confines of the Seattle grunge scene, drawing influence from groups such as the Pixies and their use of loud, quiet dynamics. Before and After Science is the fifth studio album by British musician Brian Eno. Produced by Eno and Red Davis, it was originally released by Polydor Records in December 1977. Guest musicians from the United Kingdom and Germany helped with the album, including members of Roxy Music, Free, Fairport Convention, Kin and Cluster. Paranoid is the second studio album by English rock band Black Sabbath. Released in September 1970, it was the band's only LP to top the UK albums chart until the release of 13 in 2013. Paranoid contains several of the band's signature songs, including Iron Man, War Pigs and the title track, which was the band's only top 20 hit, reaching number 4 in the UK charts. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road is the seventh studio album by the English singer-songwriter Elton John. Released in 1973, it has come to be regarded as one of his best and most popular albums. Recorded at the CEHO de Trouville, the double album contains the Marilyn Monroe tribute Candle in the Wind as well as 3 other successful singles, Benny and the Jets, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road and Saturday Night's Alright for Fighting. Boston is the debut studio album by Boston-based American rock band Boston. Produced by Tom Scholz and John Boylan, the album was released on August 25, 1976 in the United States by Epic Records. Scholz had first begun playing music in the late 1960s after graduating from MIT with a master's degree, which led to a senior position at Polaroid. Electric Warrior is the sixth studio album by English glam rock act T-Rex. It was released on September 24, 1971 by record label Fly in the UK and Reprise in the US. The album marks a turning point in the band's sound, dispensing with the folk-oriented music of the group's previous albums and pioneering a new, glamier style of rock known as glam rock. The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars is the fifth studio album by English musician David Bowie, which is loosely based on a story of a fictional rock star named Ziggy Stardust. Chicago Transit Authority is the self-titled debut album by the Chicago-based rock band Chicago Transit Authority, later known as Chicago. It was recorded and released in 1969. Double Nickels on the Dime is the third studio album by American punk trio Minuteman, released on the Californian independent record label SST Records in 1984. a double album containing 45 songs. Double Nickels on the Dime combines elements of punk rock, funk, country, spoken word and jazz, and references a variety of themes, from the Vietnam War and racism in America, to working class experience and linguistics. Thriller is the sixth studio album by the American recording artist Michael Jackson. It was released on November 30, 1982, by Epic Records, as the follow-up to Jackson's critically and commercially successful 1979 album Off the Wall. Led Zeppelin is the debut studio album by the English rock band Led Zeppelin. It was recorded in October 1968 at Olympic Studios in London and released on Atlantic Records on January 12, 1969 in the United States and 31 March in the United Kingdom. Sticky Fingers is the 9th British and 11th American studio album by English rock band The Rolling Stones, released in April 1971. It is the band's first album of the 1970s and its first release on the band's newly formed label, Rolling Stones Records, after having been contracted since 1963 with Decca Records in the UK and London Records in the US. Marquee Moon is the debut album by American rock band Television. By 1974, they had become a prominent act on the New York music scene and generated interest from a number of record labels. The band rehearsed extensively in preparation for Marquee Moon and, upon signing to Elektra Records, recorded most of its songs in single takes. Apostrophe is an album by Frank Zappa, his 18th, released on March 22, 1974 in both stereo and quadraphonic formats. An edited version of its lead-off track, Don't Eat the Yellow Snow, was Zappa's first chart single, reaching position 86. The Yes album is the third studio album from the English progressive rock band Yes, released in February 1971 on Atlantic Records. It is their first album with guitarist Steve Howe, who replaced Peter Banks in 1970, and their last in the 1970s to feature keyboardist Tony Kaye. Astral Weeks is the second studio album by Northern Irish singer-songwriter Van Morrison, released in November 1968 on Warner Brothers Records. Widely acclaimed, it has had an enduring impact on both listeners and other musicians. Born to Run is the third studio album by the American singer-songwriter Bruce Springsteen. It was released on August 25, 1975 through Columbia Records. Representing Springsteen's effort to break into the mainstream, Born to Run was a critical and commercial success. Eat a Peach is the third studio album by American rock band the Allman Brothers Band. Produced by Tom Dowd, the album was released on February 12, 1972, in the United States by Capricorn Records. Following their artistic and commercial breakthrough with the release of the live album at Fillmore East, the Allman Brothers Band got to work on their third studio album. Hunky Dory is the fourth album by English singer-songwriter David Bowie, recorded in the summer of 1971 and released by RCA Records in December. It was his first release through RCA, which would be his label for the next decade.